Hello, this is the Tradesight U.S. Stocks and Futures Market Preview for Friday, February 13th, 2015. Yes, that's correct, Friday the 13th. It's also a Friday leading into a three-day weekend. U.S. markets are closed on Monday for the President's Day break, and it's also wrapping up what has been a fairly light week, although Thursday was terrific for us from a trading perspective. We had 5 out of 5 winners, and they all went pretty far, so it was a good trading day after a couple of choppy days with light volume. Earlier in the week, we did get to 1.9 billion shares on Thursday. We'll look at that in a moment. So the reason I'm doing this, I don't usually do market previews for Fridays because they're usually the slower days of the week, but there's something in particular we want to be aware of here at this session, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. Here's a look at the ES front month futures contract. This is the continuous contract on the daily with the Seeker tool. That's our 1 through 13 exhaustion warning signal, and also with the qualifier on, which means that, as we've been saying, you have to get not just the qualifications for the 13th bar, but in this case, the 13 has to be above the 8th bar. So if you look back and see where bar 8 was back in December, we have had a couple of attempts that could have been, every one of those asterisks is a bar that would have qualified for a 13, except for the fact that we want it to be above the 8. So you don't ever want a 13 too low in the range compared to where the rest of the count was. So the qualifier forces that to happen. By doing that, we have gotten a market exhaustion signal. This is a sell signal in the broad market futures as of Thursday's close. There's that 13 you see. So be aware of that. Of course, it doesn't mean we're just going to tank tomorrow on a Friday leading into a long weekend, a lot of people taking off and whatnot. But it does mean that this is an interesting area where we might be ready to stall out in the market in general. Let's take a look at some of the other factors that we're currently seeing. One of them is, here's the trend with the 10-day moving average, and we got to close at 0.85 on the trend. That is a technical sell signal as well. So we've got a couple different signals lining up that suggest that maybe the market's about to head back a bit. Again, doesn't mean Friday is going to be a big negative day or anything like that, but just wanted to make everybody aware of it in case it does happen here. These are both fairly relevant signals most of the time. You can see last time the trend got down in this area, there was a point in September and a point in December. And if I pull up the charts here, the S&P again, it was late in December we got that last reading. That was the high. And then also back in September, mid-month, that was the high before the rollover. So the last two times the trend has done this, you know, in December going into January, we only came back a little bit. In September, it was a bigger rollover. And then the 13 sell signal on top of it on the futures contract adds credibility to that. Doesn't mean, again, that the stock market's about to tank or anything crazy like that. But certainly we may be playing the short side more than the long side in the near future. So the S&P gained 20 today. Here's the NDX. Now, there was a gap up in the market, both sides. We'll look at that in a moment. So it was more of a gap and go day. It wasn't a full straight up trading day. You couldn't have made the 20 points on the S&P because of the gap. But the NDX closed up 50, and that's a new high close on the NASDAQ 100 index. Here's a look at the SOX, which gained 11, approaching new highs. Remember, this thing had a 13 sell signal the prior day. This is a smaller index, so it needs a little more support from other parts of the market. But the pink line here at 710, that's the risk line from that sell signal. So we'll see if we can even get back up there. Here's the biotechs, 32 points up for the session. VIX dropped 1.62. Pretty low for the VIX, lowest point of the year so far on the close for the VIX. Here's a look at oil. It did rebound back to 51.25 for the close. It's a little bit of a bump up after what we've been seeing. And then here's a look at volume on the NASDAQ after 3 really poor days out of the blue, down in that 1.5, 1.6 range, billion shares wise. Finally got 1.9 here today, and that's what made it such a great trading session for us. All right, let's take a look at the intraday action on the futures so you can see what happened. Here's the ES. We got the gap up. Very small attempt to pull back in the first 10 or 15 minutes. And then from there, it was just a drift upwards for the rest of the day. So that didn't, never filled the gap. NQs on the NASDAQ side. Here's the futures there. Gapped up. Same story. Just a drift up. You'll notice the 13 sell signal late in the day is the high. Here's the ES again. So you can also see that there was a 13 sell signal. Oh, there's a 13 sell signal there, but it's been recycled now. It was there anyways. I may have the wrong settings on this particular chart right now, but there was, both of them had 13 sell signals for the day. Some of our winners, we had Akamai, AKAM here. Here's the 5-minute chart of it. Our trigger was to buy it over 65.39. It closed at 67.60, up more than 2 points from there. There's also the NDAQ over 49.71. You can hear the alerts going off from some of the signals on that. NDAQ over 49.71. That one also worked. We had a Google long over 538.45 that worked great. That's from an early trigger after the first 20 minutes or so. Ran up very nicely from there. We also had a short in Twitter in the first 10 minutes of the day that worked to fill the gap and a little bit more. And finally, we had a short on the VXX in the afternoon. That also worked. So 5 for 5, and they were all really nice winners. Nice clean day. Couldn't have possibly lost money following our stuff on Thursday. And wraps up what I said has been a kind of light week, but the heaviest days to go are the days where volume's there, and we saw that volume was there out of the gate today. So that was the patience game this week, waiting after several weeks in a row of just everything being nice. We had to sit through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and those light volume days. All right, so not too much to expect for Friday. Just wanted to make you guys aware of the various signals that are indicating potentially some downward market ahead, but that may start next week on Tuesday. We will call it as we see it from the tape in the lab on Friday. Hope to see you in the lab and help you out making some money. Charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal.